Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Advancement Center, and welcome to the reading of The Magic of Life by Robert Young. And today I am continuing with chapter 42. The town clerk was a man who handled all the graft and corruption in Norwich. He was a surly old gentleman, but Willie knew he had a soft spot for those who broke the rules for him. Although Willie and John were now going straight, the town clerk, who answered to the name of Harvey, still had a leaning towards assisting his old friends. Nobody knew Harvey's full name, and not once did anybody think that Harvey was not his correct name, but that was what they knew him as, and that was what he signed everything as. Harvey would not open his mouth until you put $100 in his pocket, in gold, mind you. To Willie at this stage, 100 in gold was impossible. What he would have to do was arrange a special favor. He had no idea what he was about to offer, but he knew that he would get Jerry and his boys out of jail so that he could take them with him. As he walked in to talk to Harvey, Harvey looked up and, to Willie's surprise, was grateful for the company of an old friend. He smiled and greeted Willie. "Ah, I can see that you can't keep away from the old days." Willie's round, jolly face broke into a big smile and turned a little red because he knew that Harvey was right. He had certainly enjoyed himself. "Ah, well, Harvey, you know how it is. A bit hard to change the old leopard spots, but still, I'm fairly straight." "Ah, yeah, I believe you, but many wouldn't. So what can I do for you, Willie?" asked Harvey. "I need to take Jerry and his boys away to teach them a lesson," explained Willie. Harvey looked a little surly for a while and replied, "Yeah, I think that will be a good idea, though not good for what happened. What I'd like to do is give them a taste of going straight for a while," said Willie. Harvey laughed when he heard this and turned red in the face. Once he managed to control his laughter, he said, "Willie, that would be worse than jail, to take Jerry and his boys and make them go straight." "Wow, I'll do this favor for you for nothing, just to see the look on their faces. You have to bring them back to me. No, better still, you come and pick me up and take me to where they are. Let me see the misery on their faces." Willie also laughed. "I never thought of it that way, Harvey. I'd like to see their faces too. Do you want to come along with me when I tell them?" "No," said Harvey. "If I come along now, I wouldn't be able to control myself. I wouldn't be able to stop laughing. Leave it for a month and then come and get me. We can then consider the favor settled." Willie stepped forward and put out his hand to shake Harvey's hand, but Harvey withdrew and said, "Not so fast, Willie. You don't get out of this so easily." "Oh, Harvey," whined Willie, "what have I got to do now?" "These characters are going to be signed over to you," explained Harvey. "If anything goes wrong, then they're straight back to the clink. So they'll be under your custody, all legal like." "Okay," agreed Willie. "So what's that going to cost me?" "If you're not careful, it'll cost you heaps," said Harvey. "But for now, sign these forms and get over to the jail and collect those characters. I don't want any more money from you. I just want some satisfaction. It's about time Jerry Sarple got his backside kicked." Willie smiled. "I'll sign anything, Harvey. You know me." "Yeah, and use your correct hand this time. I don't want any left-handed signature," said Harvey. He knew what Willie had been like in the past. Willie laughed. "Would I do that?" "You certainly would," said Harvey. Harvey placed the papers on the desk in front of Willie, and Willie noticed they had already been prepared. He looked up at Harvey and asked, "You knew all about this before I got here?" "Funny thing," said Harvey. "I do know some things, and I didn't really want to be filling out all this paperwork when you got here. Just sign on the bottom." "So I didn't have to ask you after all?" asked Willie. "No," said Harvey. "Just sign on the bottom and get out of here." Willie signed and threw Harvey a big kiss. Harvey reacted as if he had been kissed because he quickly turned his head away and said in disgust, "Ah, cut it out. Get off with you." Willie smiled and walked out the door with 6 pieces of paper, all stamped with the court seal, signed, and all very official. He thought to himself that it was amazing what a town clerk can do. It was at that point that Willie realized that Harvey would be a good ally for him in the future. He now knew a little more about the strength of the man and a little more about the fact that he really did want to do some good. When Willie arrived at the jail, John and Harry were already there to take the prisoners into their custody. "I think we'll just let them come along with us," said Willie. "We've got enough paperwork here to make sure they do as they're told. We'll show it to them first, and then we'll let them go. If they get out of line, then they'll know that they'll be off to jail for the rest of their life. Harvey will make sure of it." "So what did it cost you?" John asked Willie. "A trip back here in a month's time to take Harvey to see what we've done with these characters," answered Willie. "I told him we were going to give them a taste of going straight." "How did he take that?" asked John. "He laughed himself silly," said Willie, "and all we have to do is make sure that they go straight. Harvey reckons that it'll be worse than jail for them." "Wow, pretty good stuff," said John. "I knew you could do it, Willie," said Harry. "You're the greatest con man I've ever met." With a smirk on his face, Willie replied, "What, me, Harry? I'd never do anything like that." Both John and Harry laughed, but Willie did not change his facial expression one bit. It wasn't long before Jerry Sarple and his crew were walking down the street alongside John and Willie. All were chatting away and totally amazed at how everything had suddenly changed in their lives. They were a little surprised at what had happened, but they were more surprised at how good they felt about it all. They actually felt quite good. Jerry Sarple was in fact smiling. Harry had played a bit of a joke on him, and he actually laughed. That was unheard of for Jerry, as he was quite a nasty sort of character. He had taken many punches in the nose over the years. Willie and John were lighthearted, and Harry was playing jokes in his normal way as they headed back to the old Ridge Hunter. As they arrived, Roger gave the thumbs up sign to John, and Fred waved from the top portal to give the signal that the food was on. John turned to the entourage and said, "It looks like we've got a working vessel and grubs on. Time to eat, the whole lot of us, down in the mess." With that, the crew of the Ridge Hunter headed straight up the gangplank and straight down into the mess with such a ruckus and commotion that you would swear there was a party on. As they all were seated, Fred stood in front of the mess, held both hands in the air. "Righto, you lot, sit down. I'm serving, and you all behave yourselves from here on in." Roger arrived down the stairs, and if anybody gets out of line, they're going over the side. Willie started to laugh. "It's okay, Roger. They're all clear. They're in our custody now, and our job is to make them go straight." When he heard this, Roger began to laugh with such gusto that everyone soon joined in. Before long, the whole mess was full of laughter. Fred gave up and started serving the meal. It took almost an hour for them to eat their meal and to quiet down. At the end of that time, they had become a closely bonded crew of men, ready to move out into the world and do something positive with their lives. Many of them had forgotten what it was like to have a family, and during their meal, they had remembered all the things that they had missed out on in life. So there were a lot of new determinations and aims, as well as new dreams, all generated over Fred's first-class meal. And that ends chapter 42. And when I come back, I will be reading chapter 43. And until then, as always, I wish you a perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. Thank you.